John Impemba and James Grande.
John Impemba and Colby Conway here, bringing you the Better Baseball MLB DFS Playbook podcast, giving you our first look at this Tuesday 11-game main slate. Colby, my friend, man, how are we doing?
Doing good. We're in full swing. You know, we got some football, we got baseball. It's a good time right now. You know, it's a little sad that the baseball season's winding down here, but you know, fantasy baseball playoffs, DFS lineups, still a great time. Still a great time to be around.
What's your take on roto versus head-to-head leagues? Because I had a conversation with some friends of mine who are, I do roto leagues, and they're like, well, what's your playoffs like? It's like, well, there are no playoffs. It's roto. You just play it out to the end of the year, and whoever has the most points wins. They're like, well, doesn't that take the fun out of being in fantasy? And of course, my take was no, but they felt like the social aspect of having fantasy is taken away by a roto league versus a head-to-head. What's your take on that?
Fantasy baseball, it's all roto. I understand. I get the win-loss and playing head-to-heads. Like, I am very adamant on, for fantasy baseball, if you're doing head-to-head, you do categories. I cannot stand points leagues for fantasy baseball. So if you got to do it, that's the absolute lowest option, head-to-head points. Better than that is head-to-head categories. The best option is roto.
I would agree with you 100% there. There's just takes out the luck factor. If you have a guy who has a team that hits like 15 home runs in a week, you get a loss that week. Nothing you can do about it. You ran into, just the randomness of the baseball season. At least in a roto league, you can have that week yourself and gain ground and not have to deal with the losing record already. So I feel that way. I also feel that way about points leagues for football, fantasy football. Like, I am just anti head-to-head. I don't want to be the guy that the second most points in the week and then lose my head-to-head matchup, right? Because I face the top scoring team. I'd rather just be second place in points and not 0-1. So side tangent aside, because we do have an 11-game MLB DFS slate to talk about here. Before we get into that, go to rtsports.com/alarm. Use promo code alarm23. New users will get a 100% deposit match up to $200 when they make that first deposit. You can take part in their DFS pick'em contest going on right now. Still for the baseball, still for the NFL. You pick it, you choose it. But you can use that 100% deposit match however you like over at RT Sports. So again, go check it out, rtsports.com/alarm. Promo code alarm23. Colby, taking a look at the 11-game main slate here over on DraftKings. Some pretty interesting matchups. We do have Coors Field once again on this slate. Cubs there, as we talked about on Monday. Looking like maybe a little bit of a better weather slate. Again, first look here. We talked about on Monday, about half the main slate had possible rain. Looks like the rain might be moving its way out for the Tuesday slate, so that's at least a positive.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take what we can get, and then it's one of those things where then you look at this price or this slate, and it's like, why can't Freddie Peralta be just a couple $100 cheaper? That 11.8 is immense for him, and he's been so darn good of late. I know his last start wasn't quite up to snuff of what he's been of late, but still a good offense to go at. I'm not out on him at 11.8. I'm not as fond as I could be if he was closer to 11 versus 12.
I would agree. This is a big, big number here for a guy that, hasn't gone out of the sixth inning in 5 of his last 7 starts, 6 of his last 8 starts. You're just banking on the elite strikeout numbers because he's not paying off 11.8 if he's not getting you 9, 10, 11 Ks here. You have Scherzer against Toronto. Verlander versus Oakland is going to be your chalk. Everybody targets Oakland all the time. Verlander also at 10.7. You're getting the discount on him. So for me, when it's looking at this top grouping, that's where I'm just looking to plug and play.
Yep. I don't mind Verlander at all. I like him going up against Oakland as everyone is. And at 10-7, it's one of those things for your cash games. Everyone's going to play him. You're all basically starting with, I can't do the math that fast, but whatever 50,000 minus 10-7 is, you're all starting with the same budget because he's going to be so highly owned in cash
33.
games. There you go.
That might be wrong. Quick math there too. 10-7.
49.3.
49.3.
Oh, 39.3. 39.3.
I knew there was 2 3s in the number. I just forgot to carry the 1. It's okay. We're not math majors here. Verlander 10.7 is where I'm going. Mid-tier range here. Thoughts on this grouping? Again, Brian Wu, we talked about his last start. The lefties were going to be a problem for him, and the lefties did the damage against him against Cincinnati. Now you're looking at this LA lineup. Have a couple of lefties, but not the big lefty with Ohtani. Obviously, in that lineup anymore. They're losing Rengifo, the switch hitter. Not going to be in that lineup here. Would you be in on Wu? Do you like maybe Cabrera here against Milwaukee? Like, where are you in the mid-tier?
I'm more Cabrera than Wu. I just don't like, where have the strikeouts gone? Like, he came up, it was missing bats left and right, and now he's got 14 strikeouts over his last 26
Mm-hmm.
innings. Like, I just don't know where they've gone. Then that pitch count too is a little worrisome. Even that good start he had against Oakland, they plucked him at just under 70 pitches.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm more Cabrera. I think their strikeout upside. I don't love his chances for a win because I do think Freddie Peralta is going to stymie his offense. But I mean, in that little, he had 8 Ks against the Dodgers there, and he came in.
Yeah.
His upside is pretty high, and I think at 8,100, I am interested in him, and I think he'd make for a nice pairing with Verlander. I think.
They use him as some bulk relievers of late, but now they're going to let him go back and be the starter. So I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
Pivetta is kind of interesting here again. He's been very serviceable at times this season. Now they use him a lot as the bulk reliever. He had a lot of success. Then they put him in the rotation. He found some success there for a little bit as well. He did face the Yankees in New York, 5 innings to earn 8 Ks there. I mean, you mentioned it on the Monday show, but we'll just reiterate it. Over the last, what would you say, 2 weeks, the Yankees are the worst team in baseball against righties. So could easily find ourselves going back to Pivetta here.
Yeah, I mean, they're bad. That offense is bad. The only spark that they had is now gone because the Yankees can't have nice things, and the Martian had to hurt his UCL. And then after that, when you get down, like, I don't want Sandoval, I don't want Carlos Rodon, I'm not touching JP Sears. That next range of pitchers is trash.
Yeah.
You get down there.
Do you look at Tukey?
You could. I think you could. I was even going to go farther and say, apparently every time I tried to pick against this guy, he's done well. And since coming back, there's not a lot of strikeouts, but Cal Quantrill at that price point against a San Fran team, can they play up his strikeouts just a little bit? And if he can minimize the damage, I mean, at 5,500, we're hoping for what, like 12 DraftKings points?
Yeah. I mean, if he gets the win, he gets you 15, 16 maybe. So I agree. Wins have always been hard to come by because Cleveland's offense has been so bad. But, 6 innings with 6 Ks against the Angels is pretty good. If he can get you that again, doesn't even need the win. Told you 22 fantasy points there. So I do like that one a lot for sure. Some value plays there at pitching. All right, infield position, starting a catcher here. I wish we could go back to Cal Raleigh, but he continues. He's not a lefty hitter. He hits all of his power and production against righties, but it's not a bad spot. It's just not going to work, I don't think. Where do we want to go here?
Can Jonah Heim break out of this little slump that he's in?
Yeah, maybe Jonah Heim against Ryu. I do like Ryu a little bit, but
yeah.
I mean, Chris Flexen's giving it up to everybody, so he could go back right back to Yan Gomes at 37.
And Gomes has been better he's been better than he normally is against righties of late. So I don't hate Yan Gomes. Go down there a little bit. Should Francisco Alvarez find the lineup, I'd be very interested in him at 3,500. And then beyond that,
Connor Wong should be in the lineup here against with a lefty on the mound, 303, 880 OPS the last 10. So we know Rodon's struggle, so could get Connor Wong at $2,800.
I would not hate that one bit.
First base position, again, all of Chicago is going to be in play here. So you get Bellinger at 68 against Flex, and that feels pretty strong here. Where else would you be looking to go if you're trying to spend up?
Trying to spend up, you could get a little contrarian, try Vladdy. Both of his hits against Scherzer in his career have been home runs, so you could look to something there. I think you can get away with Pete Alonso. I just don't like Ryan Nelson. I think that's where more of my lust for Alonso on this slate comes into play. Just more so going at him. Go down a little bit more. I mean, Brandon Belt's been okay against righties. I don't want to be in the stacking against Scherzer business.
I was going right back to Abreu at 3,800 against JP Sears.
Yeah.
Are the guys we loved on the Monday slate were Casas and Lowe, but they're both lefties facing lefties. So that makes it a little bit tougher to want to bite in those spots there. So I just found myself going down to Abreu, knowing that a lefty's on the mound. Even
though he's been struggling a little bit of late, do you think you could get to Alex Kirilloff at 2,800 against Zach Little or Littell?
Yeah, I could get there. I looked at him on the Monday, but the lefty was on the mound there. Yep. Or sorry, they were facing Glass now rather. Yes. So I kind of was off of it, but there was a stretch during the season where he was one of the hotter hitters in baseball with the power numbers. So back healthy, at least for now. I don't mind giving Kirilloff at least a little peek. This is a Minnesota Twins fan show here, so We do play a lot of Minnesota. Would not be averted to that. Garrett Cooper against Lance Lynn. I know Lynn does better against righties and lefties, but we know he gives up the power as well, so could throw him in a lineup.
Yep, I agree.
Let's see. Would you go Vogelbach 27?
I was looking at that. Yeah, I mean, against a righty, can't hurt. I'm assuming he'll be in the lineup, but then again, with the Mets, I honestly can say you never really know.
It's true. Let's see. Second base position here. We have Mookie. We have Altuve. Again, I felt on the Monday slate, Altuve was where I wanted to go over bets. Probably say that again with JP Sears on the mound. I'd lean in that direction. We also liked a lot of value at the second base position on Tuesday. Do you find anything sticking out to you a little bit differently here on this slate?
I really like Jose Altuve against a lefty. I really, really like that. So Altuve is probably my preferred top play. Go down a little bit. I know the numbers for Woo. You want to get the lefties against him, but I think you could look at Brandon Drury. I just don't know how much help he's going to have in the lineup. I'm okay with literally any Padre against Lance Lynn.
Sure.
So Ha-Seong Kim, I certainly don't mind there. And Ketel Marte is pretty good option there up at the top. If you go down a little bit more.
And Mauricio's there again at 33. Right?
I mean, yeah. Geez, I don't know what else you can say about him anymore. He's our free square. They just keep giving us this free square at this fair price point, and all he does is produce. So, and the eligibility helps depending on how you want to build. So if you're dead set on Altuve, you can just move Mauricio over to short.
Yeah. Elvis Andrews is hitting the ball pretty well again. 333, 8043 the last 10 for him, and you get Jordan Lyles. So if you want to pick on Lyles, then you could go Andrews there at $3,100. At third base, you got a bunch of guys against lefties here. So you have a Ramirez against Minaya. Minaya probably ends up being the long reliever. They'll give us an opener for this one. We don't have it listed yet. Alex Bregman against Sears feels like a lock play. Now, James and I talk about this a lot. Rafael Devers against a lefty. People won't play Devers because it's a lefty on lefty, but he's another guy that hits lefties. So you could get a low roster Devers here against Rodon at 55. I think could be pretty interesting. And then Morel, as we talked about all season long, his better splits against righties, and Flexen's just giving up a 400 WOBA to everybody. So Morel at 52 could be another good course play.
Yeah, I mean, Devers has that 352 WOBA against lefties, so I wouldn't shy away from playing him at third base too. I do like Justin Turner as well.
Sure.
He's better against lefties, so I certainly like him looking at it there. And then if you go down a little bit more, I don't know, John. This just seems like a Eugenio Suarez home run night. When you look at it, the numbers of late aren't necessarily he had a couple hits there, but he's now 0 for in the past couple of games. There's just something with Patrick Sandoval on the other side of the mound that I'm looking at this and I'm looking at all these other names, but it's like all the other names are in like 10-point font and then Suarez is in like 12-point font. Yeah, he's just sticking out.
I agree. At $4,300, he feels like a great price looking to get Seattle. And then we talked about the Woo numbers. What would we say? He was like a 600 slugging to lefties he was allowing. So again, while Moustakas is, as is most of the Angels here, slumping a little bit, he's going to be in the lineup, and we discussed it, we broke it down, and then immediately the lefties started tagging Woo, and that started against Cincinnati. So that could be a legitimate just weakness that he has. So Moustakas is a guy that could put a ball in the stands here at $3,600 for some value. See if anybody else maybe sticks out. I don't mind Willie Castro here. Again, everybody that we liked against Minnesota, we didn't play against Glasnow. I'm back in on playing them against Little. So Julian, Polanco, Castro, Kirilloff, you mentioned. I think all of those guys are in play here.
Yeah, then one last third baseman. If you don't end up going super cheap a pitcher with Cal Quantrill, you could look to J.D. Davis. He's hitting the ball well of late with an 885 OPS over his last 10.
Sure. Over at the shortstop position, we have Seager and Witt at your top. I'll go right back to Dansby Swanson at 55. No fear for me there. How about for you?
Nope, not at all. I like a lot of these top options at shortstop. And then if you keep looking as well, like the more I look at it, like I know his BVP numbers aren't good, but I want to be in on Bogarts if I'm going to stack San Diego.
Sure.
The numbers aren't great against him, but if you look at the last 10 games, I mean, you're hard pressed to find one about a hotter hitter than Bogarts. I mean, of late. So I think you could look to Xander Bogaerts at 4,700 against him. If I'm not mistaken, Jeremy Pena is pretty good against lefties.
Yeah.
And he's obviously 318 average over the last 10. So if you're going to go Houston against Sears, right? That's what I said.
Houston versus Steers.
Yeah, so if you're going to go him, I mean, I would put him in a Houston stack. So I think shortstop, you are not hurting for options, to say the least.
No, definitely not. And if we wanted to go down again, we could find some value. We talked about Mauricio already. Could take a peek there for a little bit of savings. Trying to see. And we'll see if Ceddanne Rafaela is in the lineup or not. Alex Cora made a comment. The reason Ceddanne hasn't been playing as much is because the Red Sox still feel like they're in a playoff hunt. But he's also been very productive when giving the playing time. So, with the lefty on the mound and knowing that the Red Sox, they're very lefty heavy in their outfield, between Yoshida, Verdugo, Weiler, Abreu, all three of those guys are lefties. So you could see Ceddanne Rafaela in the lineup here playing in the outfield. So he started in center field the other day. So if that ends up being the case, you got the outfield shortstop eligibility, but $2,700. I would give him a good look if he finds himself in the lineup.
And then super, super cheap down at 2,200. Jordan Lawler could be in play just because he's so cheap. And the Mets starter has worse numbers against righties compared to lefties. So you could look to attack that if you need a super, super cheap option at shortstop. And really with Lawler, we're hoping for a hit and a stolen base. That's really what we're hoping for.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not going to hold the 3 games against him. It's, oh, no, he's 1 for 11. Well, okay. He's still one of the top prospects in all of baseball here. So willing to give him a look. All right, moving on over to the outfield. We've discussed Bellinger already. You have J-Rod against a lefty. Back-to-back games against a lefty for J-Rod feels pretty good for me there at $6,600. We've talked bets. You have Sears against Jordan and Tucker. Good luck to you, sir. Feels pretty good. Carroll against Budo, going to lead off probably for them. And then Soto against Lynn at 5,500 might make the cover of the show. I'm on the playbook for the Tuesday slate, so you're getting a first look at what's likely going to be in the playbook here on Tuesday. Soto might be on the cover of that playbook.
I would hope so, to be fair. I think that's the way to go. And then also I'd be okay with stacking the boys in Seattle, go right back to the well, go Julio and Teoscar against a lefty, maybe throw in Eugenio Suarez. I don't like Patrick Sandoval. I don't think he's very good. He hasn't been, I don't think he's been overly good of late. And there's just some issues with him. Righties have gotten to him. I would expect those big right-handed bats in Seattle to do it again.
Yep, I'm with you. Going on our way down again, Duvall against Rodon feels pretty good at 48. We didn't talk Javier Hassad as a pitcher. Do you find yourself gravitating more to use him as a pitcher or stacking against him or just fading the whole situation in general? He's only $6,500 here. I think he's a viable play to start for your DFS lineups. I
think you could. I love the ground ball numbers. If we're going to go to cores, keep the ball on the ground. You can't hit a home run when the ball hits the ground. So, well, I guess that's not true if it's an inside the Parker, but I wouldn't be too concerned with that. So I think you could go with it, and I think it'd be a way to be contrarian because I could see a lot of builds tomorrow night with 2 of those top 4 or 5 price guys. But who's to say you don't go Javier Assad and one of those big guys, or you say, I'm just going to load up with hitters and go Javier Assad and Cal Quantrill.
Right.
There's going to be many different ways to go. I don't hate using Assad, but at the same point with a righty and cores, this would be my time where I could comfortably get Nolan Jones in there.
Yeah, Nolan Jones, exactly. Well, that's why I looked at Nolan Jones. I love Nolan Jones. I'm Assad's been pretty good lately, though. But you could definitely go Nolan Jones, 342 and 1,100 OPS the last 10. Do maybe a mini stack with him and McMahon or something like that. Chas McCormick's 45 for sure. Brendan Nimmo homered twice the other day, I think it was $4,400 for him. You talked Teoscar in the mid tier here. Anybody else in this mid range for you? I guess Seiya. Keep riding the Seiya train.
Yeah, certainly go with him. And then beyond that, at least at first glance, you could look to go Eloy against Jordan Lyles.
Sure.
Anybody against Jordan Lyles, you can sell me on. It doesn't really take much to do that.
39.
Yep. If you're going to go the Twins, I think you could certainly go that route. And then let's see, is there a super, super cheap one in the outfield that we can find here? Dylan Moore's got good BVP number, but he's stunk it up of late. If you don't go Cal Quantrill, you could go Mike Yastrzemski because he's got an OPS over 1,200 over his last 10 games. Strikeouts are a little bit up there, but he has been quite good, to say the least, and he does like hitting in his own home park.
Yeah.
So that's one as well.
We mentioned Willie Castro, but he also has outfield eligibility. He's $3,100 here. Mike C. Grossman cracked the lineup against Ryu. He tends to hit better against lefties. DJ Stewart, still $3,100 against Ryan Nelson. He talked about the power upside with him. Certainly a guy that could find himself in play here. And then Pete Crow Armstrong, what do we think? Top prospect called up here, could be making his debut either on the Monday slate or the Tuesday slate. Obviously, the lefty's pitching Monday, so maybe they save him for flexing here on Tuesday. $3,000 for Pete Crow Armstrong.
You have to consider it. Matt Sells and I talked about it on the podcast, and Matt had talked about that the power's burgeoning for him. It's finally coming along a little bit, but he's got such a good defensive element to his game that they're going to put him out there. And his minor league numbers, I'm going to forget these last two numbers, or I'm going to mix them up. But I believe he was only hitting like 243 in the minors against lefties, but still had like an OPS north of 800. So while the average may not have been great, the OPS was there. He's willing to get on base, but he hit righties very, very well as a lefty. So when he's going to get Chris Flexen, who is not good against lefties, righty switch hitters, or anything in between, right, Pete Crow Armstrong might be the free square of the Tuesday slate.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. And of course, we mentioned Ceddanne Rafaela also has that outfield eligibility here for this 11 gamer, assuming he cracks the lineup. All right, let's build a lineup for the people at home here. We discussed some value pitchers. We discussed some we like. Verlander for sure. Mm-hmm. What's your SB2?
Boy, I really want to go Cal Quantrill. I'm
fine giving it a look here. I am. It gives us $4,200 a play. I think we just wanted to plug Yan Gomes in at catcher. What was our number one with a bullet? Was it Soto?
Yeah. Let's go with the potential cover boy.
Soto here. I feel like we do need to go Pete Crow Armstrong. He has to play against Flexen. That just feels like it's got to happen.
Well, I'm gonna do some foreshadowings. I believe I'm on the live stream, and that's gonna be my home run call.
Okay.
So let's get him in there.
Okay. $4,300 per play. Let's get a first baseman.
You want to start getting our Houston bats?
Yeah. You want to go Abreu?
Abreu and Altuve.
That works for me. 3,800. You mentioned Eugenio. Where is he at? 36? Did you say he was? Is he a little bit more expensive? Eugenio, 43. Shortstop. We had Luciano here, so we might as well just give him a look. He was 33. Now, a $3,900 outfielder to finish it off for us here. Kelenich's back. Interesting. Let's see. What if we did Ceddanne? I got to believe he's going to play because there's just too many lefties for him not to play. Ceddanne is short. Gives us a $4,500 outfielder.
And then we get Teoscar. I think he's 43.
There you go. Yeah, 44. Love that. So here's an example lineup for everybody. Verlander, Quantrill, Gomes, Abreu, Altuve, Eugenio, Ceddanne, Soto, Pete Crow Armstrong, and Teoscar gives us a two-man Seattle, two-man Houston, two-man Chicago stack with a one-off of Boston and Soto with some top-end spending of Verlander and a value pitcher of Cal Quantrill. Colby and I will be back live 5 o'clock Eastern to break down the slate with all the updated news for everybody here. Get us on Discord. Find us on Twitter, and we will catch you guys later.